That night seemed like any other in the world of late-night television. In the studio in Burbank, California, the stage lights shone brightly as the audience eagerly awaited the usual dose of humor and satire. The host, renowned for his sharp wit and politically charged jokes, stood before the cameras beginning his routine monologue. The initial jokes flowed smoothly, eliciting hearty laughter from the crowd. But then, a single remark shifted the atmosphere in the studio. In an unexpected moment, the host turned his attention to Barron Trump, the youngest son of former President Donald Trump and former First Lady Melania Trump. The joke was quick and biting, directly targeting the teenager. Though brief, its implications were unmistakable. The audience reacted in mixed ways. Some laughed out of habit, but many fell silent, visibly uncomfortable. The expressions of several in the crowd reflected confusion, even disapproval, at the sight of a teenage boy becoming the target of a public joke. It didn't take long for this moment to go viral on social media. Clips from the show began circulating rapidly, appearing on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. There was no platform untouched by the controversial footage. Hashtags like #Barron Trump and #RespectKids began trending, becoming focal points of intense discussion. Social media timelines were flooded with polarized reactions. Some defended the host, calling it harmless humor and citing freedom of speech. Yet many others condemned the joke, arguing that targeting a child crossed a line. Children should never be dragged into political narratives, one widely shared post declared, accompanied by a photo of a young Barron Trump. Parents in particular expressed outrage, stating that targeting children in the public eye was unacceptable. Meanwhile, news outlets and commentators seized upon the incident, dissecting it from every angle. Questions arose repeatedly. Where should the boundaries of humor be drawn? Should the children of public figures ever be fair game for jokes? And does a prominent host have the freedom to mock anyone, even a teenage boy? At the Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach, Melania Trump watched the clip that had sparked a firestorm. Her expression shifted from sadness to anger. Barron had always been her top priority. A mother who had tirelessly shielded her son from the spotlight and public scrutiny over the years. But now Barron had become the target of a pointed joke on national television. This wasn't just an attack on Barron, but a direct affront to her role as a mother. Melania knew she couldn't ignore this. She had endured years of criticism and ridicule during her time as First Lady, something she had learned to accept. But when it came to Barron, her maternal instincts demanded action. As the clip continued to spread and public outrage mounted, Melania began to formulate a plan. First, she intended to issue a public statement condemning the host and defending her son. But deep down, she knew words alone wouldn't suffice. A stronger measure was necessary. Her actions would not only defend Barron's dignity, but also send a message to anyone who thought the children of public figures could be publicly mocked without consequence. Melania wasn't just seeking justice for her son. She wanted to set a precedent that targeting children, whether under the guise of humor or any other pretext, was something society should never tolerate. This was just the beginning, but what Melania was about to do would undoubtedly change the narrative. Not just for this television show, but also for how society views the fine line between freedom of speech and social responsibility. At the Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach, Melania Trump sat in silence before the screen. That brief clip spoke volumes. To her, this wasn't just a story on television, but a painful blow aimed at her youngest son, someone she had worked tirelessly to protect from public scrutiny over the years. Barron Trump, a teenager who rarely appeared in public, had now become the target of a cruel joke. On the screen, the host's sarcastic remarks seemed to echo endlessly. A surge of sadness and anger welled up within her. As a mother, Barron had always been Melania's top priority. Throughout her husband's presidency, she had done everything possible to keep Barron away from the spotlight, allowing him to grow up as normally as possible in a family under immense political pressure. Yet now all her efforts seemed undone by a careless joke. Melania no longer viewed this as a personal issue. She realized that if she didn't act, it would send a dangerous message, that the children of public figures could be publicly ridiculed without consequence. This wasn't just a fight for Barron, but for all parents facing the challenge of protecting their children in a world rife with toxic commentary on social media and in the press. That evening, Melania began drafting a statement, Every word was chosen carefully, as she knew her remarks would be dissected by both the public and the media. She strongly condemned the host's actions, calling them inappropriate and deeply hurtful. However, she also knew that a statement alone wouldn't be enough to quell the controversy. Something stronger was required. The next morning, she contacted a prominent defamation lawyer, a woman known for her toughness and uncompromising stance in media-related lawsuits. Melania didn't just want to protect Barron, she wanted to send a clear message. Children should never be targets for attacks, and even the most powerful figures must respect moral boundaries. After a lengthy discussion, Melania decided to file a lawsuit against the host and the network, citing defamation and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The lawsuit quickly garnered massive public attention. Melania's official statement was shared across social media platforms and aired on major news outlets. In it, she asserted, "As a mother, I cannot stand by while my son is publicly insulted. This is not just a personal matter, but a responsibility we all share to protect children from unnecessary harm." Public reactions erupted immediately. Supporters praised Melania as a strong mother who stood up for her son against a wave of criticism. They agreed that children deserve privacy and should not become victims of thoughtless jokes. Many parents shared their own stories of their children being bullied or ridiculed, creating a groundswell of support for Melania. On the other hand, critics accused her of being overly sensitive and using the incident as a tool for attention. Some prominent hosts defended their colleague, arguing that Melania's lawsuit was a threat to free speech and comedy. Comedy has always been a way for us to confront life's challenges. We can't let emotions hinder the truth, one well-known host declared on his show. Despite the divided opinions, Melania stood firm. To her, this wasn't a battle over reputation or power. It was about ethics. She knew her actions would be scrutinized, but she was willing to endure it if it could prevent similar incidents in the future. Moreover, she wanted to send a message that personal attacks in any form should never be normalized. Melania's lawsuit marked not only a turning point in her own life, but also a reminder to society that every word carries responsibility. For her, protecting Barron wasn't just about shielding one child. It was about safeguarding the values of humanity in an era dominated by sarcasm and mockery. When news of the lawsuit broke, media attention immediately shifted to Melania Trump and the famous host. Television networks provided constant updates, while articles and opinion columns emerged everywhere. However, the incident didn't remain confined to the media. It spread into every corner of society, from family dinner tables to office discussions, and even online forums. Two opposing viewpoints quickly took shape. On one side were Melania's supporters, who believed she was doing the right thing by standing up not just for Barron, but also for moral values in society. "Children should never be the target of cruel jokes," one Twitter user wrote, garnering thousands of shares. Another widely shared post, featuring an image of a young Barron, emphasized that children deserve privacy and respect. Parents across America particularly resonated with Melania's actions. Many shared personal stories of their children being bullied, turning the lawsuit into a symbol of the fight against using harmful language. A viral video from a mother in Texas, with an emotional plea stating, "This isn't just Barron's story, it's the story of every child who's ever been hurt by the cruelty of adults," struck a powerful chord. On the other hand, defenders of the host argued that the lawsuit posed a threat to free speech. "Comedy has always been a way to cope with life's toughest moments," another host declared on their program. They claimed that the joke, while controversial, fell within the bounds of creative freedom and shouldn't be censored. Some critics labeled Melania's actions as a publicity stunt, accusing her of being overly sensitive. The tension escalated as other late-night shows began addressing the incident. Some hosts crafted monologues satirizing Melania, while others avoided the topic altogether to steer clear of controversy. This left the public questioning the line between humor and offense. As for Barron, he remained silent, staying out of the spotlight. Close family friends described him as a quiet teenager who wanted nothing to do with the media. "Barron just wants to live like a normal kid," one relative shared. Yet no matter how much he tried to stay away, the pressures of the lawsuit and public scrutiny were impossible to fully escape. Meanwhile, Melania remained steadfast in her actions. She wasn't just seeking justice for her son, but was also sending a powerful message to society. No one, not even celebrities or influential figures, should exploit a child's vulnerability for personal gain. The lawsuit didn't just affect the individuals involved, it sent shockwaves through the media industry. Major sponsors began reconsidering their partnerships with the network hosting the show. Some pulled out, increasing pressure on the network. Ratings for the program also began to decline as viewers split into two camps. Those boycotting the show for crossing the line, and loyal fans growing weary of the constant controversy. The debate extended to college campuses, where students organized discussions on the balance between free speech and social responsibility. At UCLA, a group hosted a panel titled "Humor or Harm? When Does It Cross the Line?" that drew participation from legal experts and psychologists alike. This event was no longer just about Melania and Barron Trump's personal story. It had become a symbol of the ongoing struggle between freedom of expression and ethics in media, raising broader questions about society's responsibility to protect children from public pressure. Melania, resolute in her determination, knew that she wasn't just fighting for Barron, but for an entire generation of children at risk of harm in today's digital and media-driven world. She patiently awaited the outcome, ready to face any challenge to achieve her ultimate goal. Not only justice for Barron, but also setting a precedent to safeguard childhood innocence against heartless jokes and unwarranted criticism. The legal battle between Melania Trump and the famous host was already intense when an unexpected twist shifted the entire trajectory of the case. On what seemed like an ordinary morning at the Los Angeles courthouse, Melania Trump's legal team announced a surprise witness, a former insider from the television show where the controversial monologue had been delivered. William Carter, a former production assistant on the show, entered the courtroom with a calm but resolute demeanor. A seasoned professional in the media industry, Carter was no stranger to the world of production. However, his involvement in this case shocked many, including the legal team of the host and the network. Carter had left the show amid a personnel controversy and had since stayed out of the public eye. Carter began his testimony by describing the workplace culture behind the scenes of the show. He revealed that the environment was not only high pressure, but also driven by sensationalism. It was all about one goal, creating moments that could go viral, he stated, his voice measured but cutting. The courtroom was left stunned by the evidence Carter brought with him. From his briefcase, he produced a folder containing internal emails, meeting notes, and draft scripts, all connected to the joke about Barron Trump. According to these documents, the joke wasn't an off-the-cuff remark by the host, but part of a premeditated plan. Carter pointed out that a production meeting had taken place before the taping, during which the team debated whether the joke crossed the line. Some voiced objections, but in the end, the joke was approved, Carter said. There are emails from senior executives stating, "Controversy will drive attention and boost viewership." One email presented in court was particularly damning. In it, a producer wrote, "We need something shocking to stir the audience. This joke will have people talking about us all week." The courtroom fell silent as the email was read aloud. Several onlookers expressed visible discomfort, unable to hide their disappointment at the show's operations. From that moment, the lawsuit's focus shifted from the host as an individual to the network and its production team. Melania's lawyers seized the opportunity to argue that not just the host, but the entire production system had contributed to the offensive act. They contended that this was not a personal misstep, but a calculated strategy to exploit a sensitive situation for attention and profit. On the opposing side, the network's legal team struggled to regain footing. They attempted to dismiss Carter's evidence as irrelevant, claiming that the host had acted independently in delivering the joke. However, this argument quickly crumbled under the weight of the emails and meeting notes Carter had provided. Beyond presenting evidence, Carter highlighted a broader issue: the sensationalist culture of modern media. He argued that prioritizing profit over ethics had stripped many shows of their humanity, and this incident was merely one glaring example. When everything revolves around grabbing attention, we lose sight of our responsibility to those we target, Carter concluded. Outside the courthouse, news of Carter's testimony spread like wildfire. Headlines emphasized the revelations about the show's internal culture, sparking widespread public criticism. Many who had previously defended the host began questioning the accountability of both the network and the media industry as a whole. Hashtags like #media ethics and #protect Barron flooded social media, generating millions of posts from supporters and critics of the lawsuit alike. The revelations delivered a significant blow to the host's reputation and plunged the network into an unprecedented crisis. Several top executives faced internal investigations, while major sponsors announced they were suspending partnerships until the matter was resolved. William Carter's disclosures not only transformed the lawsuit's dynamics, but also ignited a broader conversation about ethics in the media industry. Where is the line between creative content and exploitation of audience emotions? Can humor ever justify the harm inflicted on innocent individuals? These questions, now at the forefront of public discourse, underscored the gravity of the case. What began as a fight for Barron Trump's dignity had evolved into a larger reckoning for the media industry, challenging its practices and forcing a society immersed in entertainment to confront its ethical boundaries. The courtroom was packed on the final day of the trial. Tension filled the air as both sides awaited the jury's verdict. Outside, a crowd gathered, sharply divided into two camps, one supporting Melania Trump, believing she was fighting for societal ethics, and the other defending the host and network, arguing that freedom of speech was at stake. When the jury returned, all eyes turned toward them. After hours of deliberation, they announced that the host was found liable for his actions, guilty of defamation and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The network, as the entity responsible for approving the content, was also ordered to pay significant financial damages for fostering a culture of sensationalism that led to the incident. The judge emphasized that while freedom of speech is protected by the Constitution, it does not grant immunity from accountability. He stated, humor must not cross the boundary of respect. Children, especially those who have not chosen to live in the public eye, must be shielded from unfair attacks. His remarks drew applause from some in the courtroom, while the host's supporters sat in stunned silence. For the host, the verdict was a devastating blow to his career. Major sponsors quickly withdrew, his show was suspended indefinitely by the network, and his reputation crumbled overnight. Many loyal viewers turned their backs, feeling that he had crossed a line by targeting a child. The network faced intense public backlash, forcing senior executives to undergo stringent internal investigations. Several key producers were dismissed, and stricter content approval policies were implemented to prevent similar incidents. The network issued a public apology, pledging to improve its workplace culture. However, for many, the apology came too late. Despite her legal victory, Melania Trump maintained a calm demeanor as she exited the courtroom. In a brief statement to the press, she emphasized that the lawsuit was not just about her son, but about protecting children from the toxicity of media. We must ask ourselves, when does freedom of speech turn into offense? And who will stand up when it happens to those who cannot defend themselves? She said with evident emotion. This case was not just a personal triumph for Melania, but a powerful societal wake-up call. Many parents expressed feeling inspired by her determination, leading them to speak out against bullying and unfair criticism of their children, whether in real life or online. The lawsuit raised significant questions for the media and comedians. Where is the line between humor and harm? Should controversial jokes still be used to attract attention? Several prominent comedy shows began self-regulating, steering clear of sensitive topics involving children or vulnerable groups. Other networks seized the opportunity to enhance their public image. They organized ethics and responsibility training sessions for their production teams and encouraged comedians to explore creative avenues without resorting to personal attacks. Some renowned comedians publicly committed to refraining from jokes targeting children or deeply sensitive topics. While the trial concluded, the debate over free speech and social responsibility persisted. Some argued that the verdict set a dangerous precedent that could stifle the sharp edge of comedy. Others welcomed it as a reminder that freedom of expression should not be used to inflict harm. The online community became more aware of the impact of words. Posts and comments mocking children began facing strong pushback, while movements like #RespectKids gained traction across social platforms. Many social media users emphasize that, whether famous or not, everyone has a responsibility to use words with compassion and awareness. Melania Trump's lawsuit was more than a legal victory. It was a clarion call for society. It reminded us that freedom of speech should never be a shield for behavior that harms others, especially children. In a world where humor and criticism are increasingly pushed to their limits, this story poses an essential question. Are we willing to sacrifice human values for a moment of laughter? This case also underscored a profound lesson about responsibility. Whether a public figure or an ordinary individual, we all have the right to speak out, but we must remember that words hold power, and sometimes they can wound more deeply than actions. Let us reflect on how we use our words, especially in an era where social media amplifies them in an instant. Humor, when used appropriately, can connect people, bring joy and inspire. But when it crosses the line, it only creates division and pain. Respect, empathy, and mindfulness of the consequences of our words are principles we must all uphold. What are your thoughts on this story? Share your perspectives in the comments below. Do you agree with the court's decision? How do you think the line between humor and offense should be drawn? Your input will contribute to meaningful discussions about human values and social responsibility. If you found this story insightful, don't forget to like the video to let us know you appreciate meaningful content like this. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next thought-provoking story. Join us in spreading positive messages and building a more empathetic and respectful society. Thank you for watching.